Today we're doing another mock draft review. We're going to be reviewing Pro Football Focus's recent mock draft. They got a one-rounder here, and what we're going to be doing is taking the rookies with these landing spots, and after we review this mock draft, we'll then rank them / draft them for our Dynasty Fantasy Football scenarios and just go over the landing spot. That way we kind of got a landing spot with the player to give us some ideas of how to value these guys. But let's go ahead, dig into this rookie mock draft from PFF Pro Football Focus and see what they have. So here we go. We're going down to the first pick. First player off the board, Bryce Young, Alabama to the Houston Texans. That pick could be changing by the end of the weekend. Another team might be drafting. But right now, it's been quite apropos. Bryce Young, 101, QB1 of this draft. We've seen Stroud at the first pick, but mostly Bryce Young. So that's going to be interesting to see if that holds true to size. I don't think this is the strongest quarterback class. I think all the quarterbacks have something in their portfolio to make note of, good and bad. So this is something you want to look at, is the landing spot these quarterbacks go to. Moving on down to our next skilled player off the board, you can take a look at the defense and offensive line. But at 5, the Colts draft Will Levis from Kentucky. This guy's got a cannon. He looked really good in 2021, has some ups and downs in 2022. The thing to know here, you have Jonathan Taylor to hand the ball off to, Michael Pittman. So you got some weapons. You're playing indoors. You might get some time to develop here. So this could be a great landing spot for Will Levis. Going to the next skilled player that we're going to be looking at here at 8 to the Carolina Panthers, CJ Stroud. We're seeing him mocked here a good bit. It's either here or the 101, but to the Panthers, very interesting because they got to wrap up a lot of positions too. They got to wrap up the wide receiver position. They got to get some talent there. DJ Moore's not getting younger. He's starting to get to that older age. Plus, they don't have an alpha wide receiver for him to lean on to. The run game, what are they going to be doing at running back? We had some jabronis back there taking turns, but are they going to upgrade that position? This is a good draft to do that in, and next year's draft as well, but they got to get him some weapons as well. We saw Stroud look great against Georgia, slinging the ball all over the place. If he can develop that into consistency at the NFL level, we might have a stud on our hands. Moving down here, defense, O-line, defense, and at 13, we got the Titans drafting Quentin Johnston. Imagine Quentin Johnston and Treylon Burks together. We have some good size adjusted athleticism. They got trees moving downfield at a high pace. This is also the Titans showing their hand that they may start relying more on the passing game, which could mean more volume in the passing game for these pass catchers. Plus, Derrick Henry isn't going to be here forever, so you can't not acknowledge that. And right below here at 14, we got the New England Patriots drafting Jordan Addison, wide receiver from USC, formerly from Pitt. He's probably the safest wide receiver to get in the draft because he has been a standout throughout his career. Early breakout age, exploded during his sophomore year, did well at USC, even though he's been dealing with injuries. He played well. His career has been good. Going to the Patriots, that could help their passing game. This may not be the best for him for fantasy. This might not be his best landing spot. I don't see him ever being a complete bust, but I could see him being degraded a little bit in the wrong situation. Plus, this wide receiver class isn't super strong either at the top, at the bottom, at the middle. So you could just really see a landing spot like this impact him. What are the Patriots going to do at the quarterback position? Is Mac Jones their long-term answer? What's the volume going to look like going forward? Are they still going to have trouble developing their wide receivers? This is an interesting spot for Jordan Addison. It's 2023. Things can change. So he's a good talent to get. Very cerebral route runner. Could get a lot of targets here. Moving on down to 17. Green Bay Packers select Michael Mayer. This is a good slot for him. For dynasty value, it's going to be interesting to see how the landscape values him, how the market reacts to this. Because whenever a Packers get a pass catcher, they bump them up almost to the moon. So you could see him really getting elevated in drafts. Don't know how long Rodgers is going to be there. Nobody does. You can't really bank on that. But one thing is, you know the value is going to be there. So if he shows any signs of life during his first, second, or third year, his value is going to increase. So that could be a lottery ticket. Another thing is this could be a scary thing to get is a Packers tight end with first-round draft capital, knowing that Rodgers is going to be out. And you don't know what the long-term thing is going to be. Not the most athletic tight end out there. So very cautious with Mayer. The running back position is really going to flush things out for him, because if the running backs go high in round 2 and they're looking good with good capital, good landing spots, that might flush him down to the second round anyways. But right now, a lot of people are still drafting him in the first round. I do like this landing spot, especially for the short term, but I also want to see how things play out as well. Moving on down, we got more defense, we got more O-line, we got a forfeited pick here. 23 overall, New York Giants selects Anthony Richardson from Florida. A lot of hype with this guy. This guy could be something for us from a fantasy perspective because he can get you those yards on the ground. He's mobile. That's what we like. We like that Konami code. We got some weapons here at the Giants. We got Saquon Barkley. We're going to have some receivers here. Wan'Dale Robinson. They're adding stuff here to help the team. That's what I want to know, is that they're adding skill players. They got some stuff here for him to lean on. Again, they also have Daniel Jones. You want to see how that plays out. I've seen him mocked here a couple times. I don't know how far he'll go down in the draft or where he'll be at. There's going to be a lot uncovered during draft season, but in this scenario, it's not the worst thing. I think fantasy-wise, especially Superflex, he's going to be in the first round no matter what, really, if he gets drafted in the first round. If he falls a little bit, then he'll fall a little bit in regular Dynasty drafts, and that's just about right for the value here. But Anthony Richardson isn't a guy you need to forget about either. He's a good player. Moving here at 24, Los Angeles Chargers select Zay Flowers from Boston College. I think this is a sneaky player going to a sneaky spot. I think his value, if the Chargers draft any player, it's going to increase their stock immensely because they can really make ancillary jabroni wide receivers be productive, especially from a target share perspective if they're on the field. So Zay Flowers, this may be the best spot for him. There's also talks about him going in the first round. I bet he does get drafted higher than expected. From a market share standpoint, he was productive throughout his career at Boston College. Also has some speed. He can create separation. Interesting player to monitor during the draft process. Moving down, and Dallas Cowboys get sneaky at 27, drafting Jackson Smith-Njigba at Ohio State. Big slot receiver, can play a little bit on the outside. Had that big 2021 season. Let's see if things can carry over here. But him, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, a three-headed monster there. That's what they wanted in Dallas. It's what they always wanted before Amari Cooper left. So this could really repatch the wide receiver position for them. Also, one thing important to know is you got some tackles being drafted behind him. That's probably what you're going to see them go. You're probably going to see him patch up some O-line, maybe some other positions other than wide receiver, because they don't always go super sexy in the first round. But this isn't a horrible landing spot for fantasy as well, considering the Cowboys getting these situations, these game scripts that call for the passing game to ignite a little bit. Moving down here for our next skill player at 31, Bijan Robinson to the Bills. This is more like a dream landing spot, a dream scenario, because I don't see him falling this far in the draft. Obviously, if he goes to the Bills in the first round, that just ignites the dynasty spectrum here, and he just becomes RB1 overall for a lot of people, RB2 overall, 103, 104 in drafts. He is going to be up there if he goes to a potent offense like this and is expected to have the lead role early. But let's move on to these players. Let's rank them in tiers, do our little mock draft with these guys. So our stud tier gets our stud, and that is Bijan Robinson. We're doing this as Superflex, remember, because it's hard to do that in a first round mock with mostly quarterbacks. So we're going to throw these quarterbacks in here for tier A. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis. Top 10 draft capital for all of them. All of them are going to get a little bit longer leash than guys drafted in the back end of the first round. Top 10 guys. Bryce Young, number 1 overall player. Skill position around him isn't the greatest, but he's going to get the longest leash of them all, supposedly. Stroud, Levis. You can really flip and flop these guys. You can really flip and flop all three of these guys. They all got their strengths and they all got their deficits. This isn't a stud quarterback class, but they do have some traits that could really ignite their dynasty value if they're in the right situation, if they hit. Speaking of situation, Levis isn't the best one of them all, I believe, because he has Jonathan Taylor right now to lean onto. You got Michael Pittman. You got some stuff here. Stroud here has DJ Moore, which I love, but he needs an alpha wide receiver to go along with that. They need to patch up the running game here. The Panthers are kind of up on the upswing, but we kind of see that all the time. Young here. There's some good things here in Houston. They're trending upwards kind of wide receiver. They got Nico Collins. Brandon Cooks has been there forever. He's an older wide receiver. He's also quite quitting right now. You can also see them add to the wide receiver position, maybe even at the tight end spot as well. So this is very in question, but he's also getting that draft capital. And for Superflex, that holds value. All three of these guys will have value in Superflex. It might be mixed around a little bit. So between maybe Stroud and Young, you may get a wide receiver or running back, probably like Jahmyr Gibbs between them before you see the next one come off the board. Going into Tier B, and we got the big three wide receivers here. Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think Jordan Addison can be good no matter where he goes, even though it's the Patriots. Also, Jackson Smith-Njigba won't be the wide receiver 1 on his team. Maybe a wide receiver 1B to 1A, maybe over time. But I would still draft him. I would still hold him highly regarded in the first round. Quentin Johnston, same thing. It doesn't matter if Treylon Burks is still there. I think those two could be a good 1-2 punch, and eventually, if you're stacking at wide receiver, you're going to be transitioning to the pass more, especially once Derrick Henry's out of there. That's eventually going to happen. I think having those two together on the field would be fun to watch. Moving on here, we're going to Tier C. We got Anthony Richardson and Zay Flowers. Anthony Richardson can really move up to here to back end of Tier B, but really, I really want him on his own to talk about because his upside is so grandiose that he could be the top guy in Tier A. His deficits are really apparent where it could really hurt his career as well. He's fell in the draft back in the first round. You're going to have to wait on him a little bit. So a C seems fair in a Superflex standpoint. He's quarterback, going to hold Superflex value. Should be drafted in the first round of Superflex rookie drafts. 1 QB, you're looking at more running backs, wide receivers in that range. Zay Flowers, you can put him up here. He has talent to be there. He does. The draft capital, the situation is also there to help him out. For Tier D, we just have Michael Mayer. And just because he's a tight end, I think he's going to be all right in this offense. I think the Packers are a great spot for him, but the devaluation of the tight end position is what I'm looking at. It takes away the upside of your pick if you go tight end too early. I like him at this spot if you can draft him in the second round of rookie drafts. At the back end of the first round of rookie drafts, still a little rich for my blood, mainly because of the position at tight end. I'm not looking at him as a generational talent or anything. He was productive during his entire career at Notre Dame and showed that he can be a good pass catcher. Just the athleticism, just everything else going on with this, the position as a whole. It's hard to take that risk at tight end at such a high price tag. So you got to be wary of that. I like him in the second round. If it's the 112 or something like that, the running back position has to be on fire. Guys have to fall in the draft for that to happen. But I look for running backs to get drafted all over the place in the second round and early third round. So there should be a lot of value picks at running back here in the first round and early second round that we're looking at that could push him down or should be pushing him down when you think of macroeconomic standards, which is what I'm looking at. Also, we're going to see more wide receivers than this getting drafted in the second round, possibly getting pumped up in the first round as well. We're going to see more wide receivers than what you think get drafted in like first 50, 60, 70 picks in this draft because the wide receiver position in the NFL is highly coveted. That helps your passing game, and that position's gaining more value. That doesn't mean the same thing for us in fantasy, but if guys get draft capital, they're going to get opportunities. Those opportunities could lead to production somewhere down the road, so you can't ignore that at all. But that's it for this mock draft from PFF. Let me know what you think about the mock draft in general. Also, let me know what you think about these players and how you would rank them. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. It's only going to help you going forward for your Dynasty rookie drafts, your Dynasty teams, and everything else. I want to thank you for watching.